What promised to be one of the most exciting moments of the season ended up being the worst cliffhanger of the entire show. All because they...
Are you ready for it?
A good show makes you excited to watch it. A great show gets better every single time you watch it again. Beast Games not only made me excited to watch it, but also gave me a lot of good memories when I was rewatching it. However, it doesn't mean this show is perfect. As you read in the title, we're going to expose everything wrong with Beast Games. Starting with episode 1, 1000 people compete for $5 million. From best to worst, this episode is ranked in 4th position. It was the perfect introduction to this show. Some people made comments about the fact that many contestants got eliminated due to other people's action. However, that's exactly the beauty of this show. It is like life. You're not 100% in control of everything, but you always have control over something. For example, on the first game, in order to move on, one person from your line must sacrifice themselves. You could press other people to do so. You could offer deals. And here we can see the first problem with this show. It felt unfair only because to the audience, players were hopeless. But as you notice, there was always something that could have been done. In the first episode, they played 3 games. All of them was exciting to watch. However, there is a big elephant in the room. I'm talking about Mr. Beast as a host. It seems like the guy was born to do so. However, I would prefer if we didn't see scenes like this one.
Do you mind if I poke it?
I would mind if you poked it. I do not want you to poke it.
Okay, I won't poke it then.
It takes out the credibility of the show. I don't care if one of the boys does such a thing. It isn't funny. But as a host, I would prefer to see him as the authority within the show. But as I said before, this is not a bad episode. It has a lot of great things about it. Especially because in this episode, we get to know some of the people that will move on to the second phase.
There's a lot of clowns that want to donate the money.
I will do anything it takes to win that money.
Kid, sorry.
I'm ready to go to the city.
I do not belong here. I don't know how I made it here.
At the end of the first episode, I was super excited to watch the second one. Second episode, 500 people trapped in my city. We already begin with a little problem. The city doesn't look as great on camera. The entrance is ugly and the shot they took doesn't look as exciting. But at least they nailed the towers. And this is important because the towers are going to play a crucial role within this episode. That being said though, it doesn't save this episode of being the last position from best to worst. Watch it again was super boring. And here is the reason, starting with the main problem. You know all those characters that we get to know and feel excited about in the first episode? They all gone. We don't get any update from them, which kind of kills the energy a little bit. However, we still have people competing for $5 million. You may think, if the second is the worst episode ever, it's only downhill from here, isn't it? Not at all. The only reason it is the worst episode, all because out of the 4 games that start in this episode, only one is exciting to watch again. And here we are at the 4th game. What promised to be one of the most exciting moments of the show ended up being one of the worst cliffhangers of the season. All because this 4th game was bad executed. First of all, Mr. Beast spent a lot of time saying the leaders was going to be offered incredible amount of money. This made me remember the first seconds of the first episode, they already gave $1 million. And on top of that, all those contestants are competing for $5 million. So when he said that he would offer a bribe that was so absurd that would make him puke, it made me super excited. Break the episode right when he says so, and then the digital panel starts going up. I was super pumped. I went immediately to watch it, and it was only deception. Because that amount of money that would make Jimmy puke was $1 million. Who They already rejected $1 million at the beginning because they were competing for $5 million. In that position, would say, okay then, now I'm going to eliminate myself plus become a villain. Nobody would do that. So once again, bad executed. To be a good prize, it should be at least half of the price of the entire season. It would send a way better signal to the audience. But this game doesn't have only this problem. On top of that, that is the fact that all this time, all the money were visual. When they offered $1 million at the beginning of the show to those who wanted to give up, they put the money on the floor. When they offered the second bribe, they brought money on briefcases so people could see the money. On this fourth game of the second episode, they were like, oh, there is this digital screen here. Trust me, it is real money. I don't want to be too heavy on Jimmy's team here. I understand why they broke this game in two parts. All because it would be only interesting to see the finale already in the second episode only if someone took the money, because then you would expect in the third episode the consequences of this person's decision. But as this didn't happen, the best thing they could have done was to break the episode in two parts. But I still put the blame on the fact that it had potential, but it was poorly executed. So you lose point for that. The show is good, so I already gave it a score of 10. However, as we find problems within the show, we're going to deduct points from this score. And now we are officially at the third episode, The Solitary Experiment. From best to worst, it was ranked in the 5th position. Not because it sucked, only because some of the following episodes will top this, and that's a good sign for a show. Although I'm saying this episode is great, I have one bad thing to say about it. Let's begin with the bad news. They built a whole house just to say, you guys are safe for this next game. Why? Like, I don't see any advantage on that. The second negative thing will be said. However, first we need to talk about the positive. The fact that each group were in their own cube and they could decide among themselves which games to play. It created a very interesting dynamic within the show, because you could see all of those things happening at the same time. Also, characters start to take shape. By this point, we already get to know Jeremy, we already get to know Diano. They were the leaders. We also get to know the vet. I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Thank you for the services. And you see, like, a lot of people criticize this show as not being good at storytelling, but we get to know this guy. He's a vet. He had a simple goal, but it was something worthy. He wanted to travel the world. He did not take the $1 million, and more than sacrificing himself, he decided to play fair. I'm having goosebumps right now. It was great storytelling. In my perspective, this show is working. The only problem is that it's a lot of people. Not everybody's take was interesting, but it isn't just a Mr. Beast problem. Squid Game, the reality show, was even worse in my opinion. This group of YouTubers, Tyler, the co-creator, and I'm sure there are other people as well, you know, they did a fantastic job, because Squid Game, for example, there was this one character that they introduced right at the beginning. I was super attached to this character, but then this guy got eliminated, and I was like, what is the purpose of keep watching that thing? So in Beast Game, it was different. It still isn't perfect, but it was way better to getting to know people as they were progressing within this issue. You get attached with them on the right moment. The only problem, I'm sorry, but I did not feel bad for that girl. I do recognize the guy as the villain. However, I could not cry with her. I was feeling mad and sad, especially seeing she crying, the other two laugh. But that's the only feeling I got. Like, I was more excited to get to know this villain than sad because she was crying. We all know, as the story builders and tellers, that we need to present characters in a strong way. And here is why I say that even though there are problems about Beast Game's show, it is genius in a way. Think about it. Here we get the introduction of the Egyptian guy as the villain. However, we saw him for the first time on the second episode, he was like being the good guy, showing the good facade, saying, oh, I feel bad because so many of my friends are getting out. That's the first time you get to see this guy. Now he plays that way. Good for the show. You get to know him at the right point. They did the right job, because if we get to know her history before she was eliminated that way by those guys, the feeling of sorry for her would at least hold me back from continuing enjoying the show. The fact that they did the things the way they did made me as a member of the audience feel like I'm sorry, but at the same time, this seems like an interesting character to keep an eye on. It was good overall for the show. Great decision, congratulations guys. On top of that, the fact that the contestants were on the internet making content and talking about the experience made me pick my favorites and start looking for them on the game as well. So that's why I say Beast Games, it is a great show, but nonetheless there are a lot of problems with it. And back again, they lost so much money in this game. For example, they built this whole house just for one shot. Doesn't make any sense. That money that they wasted building a house that only served one purpose could be used somewhere else. And this pattern repeats throughout the whole show. The US government hired Doge to make things more efficient. I feel like MrBeast needs to hire their own Doge because they need it. They are wasting money like it is nothing. Moving on, fourth episode. From best to worst, it was my second favorite episode of the whole season. The dynamic that they built was so great. The idea that there is only 10 choppers and we see the several games. All games were exciting. The whole episode was exciting. Congratulations. I don't have nothing negative to say about this episode. Episode 5. Fight to win an island. From best to worst, it is in the third position. I really liked this episode, especially because it was less people competing for the island. We get to know them a little better. It was worth it. Every single game they played made sense to me, especially the last one. One problem though, by this point I think it is 200 contestants. Only 10 compete for the island. The rest of the people don't do nothing besides a small cameo at the end where they need to vote, blah 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 blah. I wish, like, if you win the island, congratulations. Now you have to choose 10 people to get out of the game. We're not at the end of the game yet. Every single thing this person wins must come with a price, with a sacrifice. And the sacrifice would be, now you're forced to be a villain. You either keep the island that you fought for and become a villain, or give up the prize. A dilemma. Give me something. Like, don't make me watch a whole episode just to see 9 people go. And especially, don't make me watch a whole episode to see more than half of the cast on vacation doing nothing. Building relationships. Okay, I couldn't see none of those connections being built. Talking about connections, to me it was a big bummer in the show, and I didn't talk earlier to not make this beginning overwhelming, but it feels like a perfect place to talk about it here. To me it was a big bummer see that the Feastable Cafe was not indeed a cafe, it was just holes on the wall, and that's why Scorekeeper deduct 0.5 points out of the score. If they had the cafe, naturally, it's like the school. You see people building connection. Naturally, you see the loners. Naturally, you see alliances being formed. Naturally, you see groups that have friction with each other. Instead of building the T-Mobile house that serves no purpose, build a place so people could eat. We could see those friendships being formed. People talking about their feelings, about their goals, about themselves. Anyways, episode 6. Physical, mental, and chance. Let's begin with chance. Once again, the concept of this show is reinforced. Remember, I said at the beginning that this show is like life. You don't have control over everything. However, there is always something that you can do. Even though those people are on top of trapdoors that may be safe, may be eliminated, and they're only going to know after they were triggered, they still have the option of stay where they at or move to another trapdoor. You always have a choice. Oh, but it's a bummer because blah blah blah. You always have a choice. Let's move on to physical. This section was almost a bummer because we had old weak people going against strong young people. The only thing that made the section great was the fact that unfortunately or fortunately, we had wise, weak old people going against dumb, strong young people. That thing made this episode great. If it wasn't by the people who played it, it would be boring to watch. The mental games. And here we have an important point to make. Jimmy failed interference within this game. Since the first episode, I'm already noticing this pattern. Jimmy / the show always trying to interfere with the contestant. As a contestant, I would be pissed. As a member of the audience, some of those interference are welcome, others are bad. Example of good interference. On the first episode, to make the contestants accept the bribe, Mr. Beast goes there and says the perfect line. Did you ever found yourself in the position where at the tap of a button you could win $100,000? That's interference, but in this case, as a member of the audience, that's a good interference. Another example of good interference, the Gold Cup in the second episode. That ball game was exciting to watch. The Gold Cup made it even more exciting because now either the person is selfish and strike for their own goals, or they are a team player and try to win a point for the team. That was good interference. All of this just to say that right now we have the worst interference ever. This player called Akira, he clearly say, I'm just here in this game, not for the money, but to eliminate, remember the Egyptian guy who became a villain? To eliminate the villain. Okay, he goes there, he succeeds at doing so. Jimmy comes with the interference. Here is 50K just so you can give this guy another chance. Come on guys, this guy is not here for the money. And especially like 50K so you can lose the opportunity of 5 millions. Like what, like come on, like once again, I'm not going to have it on the show. I think it could be a good interference. However, it failed. Don't show it because it doesn't make any sense. Another thing about this episode, it was so cringy to watch the editing of the girl sobbing and the guy being eliminated. I'm feeling this emotion here only because if this guy was such a villain, why did you try to keep him in the, like, come on, like I cannot feel the satisfaction from seeing a villain being defeated. Villain unquote, those are real people, I'm aware of that, but I'm watching a show. I'm treating them as characters. Anyways, a terrible thing about this episode and this game in general, Mr. Beast's team is awesome in creating some games and terrible in create others. The games that they suck at is the ones that the contestants need to use brain capacity. In the second, I'm not the brightest guy here. I'm not saying I could do better. I'm just pointing something that I'm noticed. If you are not good at creating mental games, like, don't try to. There is a Netflix show called The Devil's Plan. It is a Korean. They show brilliant mental games because you as the member of the audience, you get to know the strategy that the contestants are using to figure out the game. However, Mr. Beast is like trivia. And the question is, trivia in itself is already boring. To me, even to play. Imagine to watch someone playing trivia with questions like, who is the founder of Amazon? Like what? Don't waste my time. They kept as a joke because it isn't funny. People competing for $5 million with having to answer this type of question. It is funny. But you know what is also funny? Kanye West commercial on Super Bowl 2025. It is funny, but is it worth it though? I don't think so. Another thing, the rewatch, it is a pain to see, for example, Mr. Beast unnecessary lines.
They literally look like ants.
Why would an editor keep those lines? Doesn't add to anything. Some of those jokes, it is not even funny. On a TV show, like, come on. But if you think this is bad, episode 7, the elimination train. From worst to best, this episode is number 9. The concept itself is boring. The only thing interesting, sort of, was Diana moving with strategy. The only thing interesting the whole episode was that thing. But wait a minute, that I noticed a pattern here. But before this something positive, let me go heavier on it a little bit more. Think about it. Who do you choose? Your friend or a car? A bunch of strangers or a very expensive car? Like, that was the most boring, annoying thing ever to watch. But I'm glad I came back. Did you notice how much screen time Tawana get? That woman, since the episode 0, she's getting a lot of screen time. Those people telling, oh, that there is no character development, blah, 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 blah. Don't you notice Tawana? Since the episode 0, how much screen time she got? They were showing her because they knew she was going to go further in the game. I don't know if you noticed, but now you know. Choo choo! Let's move on. Episode 8, betray your friend for $1 million. From best to worst, this episode is my top 1. This is the best episode ever. Game-wise, it wasn't the most genius thing I ever saw, but considering the decisions the character made, I would never in 1 million years expect that they would do what they did. And that was amazing. One point, the whole episode 8 was only on quotes a setup for episode 9. So I'm ranking episode 8 and 9 in the same place. They are position 1 because episode 8 is only the setup for episode 9, aka only one step away from the grand finale. Episode 9, bribe your way to the finale. There is only 6 spots. There are only 6 spots and 10 contestants. And as you see, the people are getting crazy to get the last spot. And all this energy was really entertaining to watch. Let's see if episode 9 will have the same kind of emotion. It begins with a surprise, the $10 million coin flip. In my rank, this episode is position number 7. And I'm almost putting it on the top 3 worst episodes. It had some good moments, but in the end, someone won $10 million and I was like, good for them. Good for them. I'm glad the person who won was the one who won, if you know what I mean.